Hello and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you all are watching. I'm Kathryn Camp, and this is Dr. Judy Mikovits, who's so kind to spend time with us. And this is the To Your Health show that we do the first Monday of every month. And I just feel really, really blessed to have made friends with such an awesome person. It's almost unbelievable for me because of the health problems our family has had. And I feel like I've got some answers with all of the Lyme disease, or what people call Lyme. Of course, you corrected me many times as neuro-AIDS and all these autoimmune diseases going on that were never here before. And Judy wanted to talk today about CIPD. So you're going to have to tell us what that is. And I know somehow it's affiliated with MS. So we're going to get some education here.
Right. Absolutely. So yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day here in California.
Awesome.
So thank you so much. It's lovely to be here with you on this first Monday of the month. It's an important topic because, essentially we've been lied to for too many years about what really is going on. And I think you even turn the acronym letters around. It's CIDP. So so what I did was, and the name is absolutely ridiculous, but what I did was I built you 3 slides, and again, our producer here at AUTOIMMUNITY puts these into the show notes, as well as the original publications, all the references that back up the data, the true science, not opinion, but the published data all the way back to 2004. So what I thought we could do today, because people talk now in acronyms, so and multiple sclerosis was bad enough, because that's also a meaningless term unless you understand what sclerotic plaques are, which of course nobody does. And when we talk in acronyms, like our TV does to us each night, oh, my doctor diagnosed me with ADTTM, and that's a very rare disorder, because what we've actually done is we've taken, diseases which have been around since, I don't know, humankind existed. And in fact, these diseases that we are seeing, that are all given new names and new syndromes, autoimmune diseases, go straight to where we actually met at Clay Clark's, not Clay Clark's, but AUTOIMMUNITY's building Stay Awake America tour, because we were on Clay Clark's for more than 3-4 years now, at Clay Clark's Reawaken America. So now with General Flynn, of course, supported and sponsored to let America see the lies it's being told, just about our very, very founding, and about what dis-ease and actually autoimmune disease is. So I show at AUTOIMMUNITY's Stay Awake tours, and I think we met before Knoxville. I think we met at the very first one in Ohio. With Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. So these events are important, and the reason I mention them for your audience is all of these events and the talks I gave are actually saved at therealdrjudy.com. So there's an entire section, our website. My job is a PhD, as a scientist, not a practitioner of any way, shape, and form. That's why it's so difficult, and why I appreciate you with a doctorate in ministry. You appreciate how a student with a doctorate drills down on a philosophy and actually teaches that that language to your students. So
Yeah.
you can pull up those 3 slides there to share with your audience, or have the producer do that. And again, these are in the files, so you will find this class on our AUTOIMMUNITY teaching platform, so that you can share it with your physicians, with your practitioners, with your even your gym instructors, as we knew this pandemic called COVID. It's not that there wasn't a virus. It's that the virus called SARS-CoV-2 was never a coronavirus. And it was actually, and we don't have to go over that today, because I really want to drill down on how they've used the pandemic, the plague of corruption, the book, the movie Plandemic. The entire series was based upon that book at every level, whether it be my portion, the first 26 minutes with Mickey Willis, May 4th, 2020, before the pandemic really got started, this plague of corruption. And this is what Clay Clark saw, this New York Times best-selling book, literally, and read it and said, oh my God, looks what's coming. So as we've unveiled, as we've dropped the veil, I like to use these terms because from the Bible, you don't veil your face in front of your Lord. You don't veil your face. You don't cover your face. You don't hide. You can't hide from God. God knows your soul. God knows your soul. And in fact, I'm not a preacher, but I'm trying to teach you that God's natural law is the only science. And you don't invent science. You discover God's natural laws. And then as a scientist, we translate them by teaching practitioners such as yourself. And you're not a practitioner in that space, but you're a practitioner in the space of, drink this water a little bit.
Yeah, you need an all drink.
So if you pull up those slides and share the screen, I think I can make it very succinct. So what I thought we could do in the next few series, and if your audience loves it, we can actually go to and drill down on every place of this document. But if we understand first that our government is not our God, and liberty is not freedom, and our spinach isn't our grandmother's spinach, because our soil's been poisoned by glyphosate. And I'm saying these things only because there's a principle in science or medicine. It's medicine called not science, because science is not medicine. So I do hope your audience will listen to our book club and other classes on our club. So I'm waiting for you to show that. So when I can see that screen.
Tell me, Dr. Judy, which one? I've got 3. I can only do one at a time.
3 slides?
I have 3 files that you sent me. Here, let me show you.
3 slides, that one. So start right there.
Okay.
Perfect. So what you see there for your audience is the book cover of our book, published November 16th, 2014, and it's called Plague. And the subtitle of that book, One Scientist's Intrepid Search. I'm searching. I do search and research for the truth about human retroviruses and chronic fatigue syndrome. Just call it long COVID or Lyme disease. They're just variants, and we'll talk about it. Autism and other diseases. Well, why does this matter? Because the cover of that book is through my microscope. And the picture that was drilled down through my microscope is what you would call in science, in cancer research, aneuploidy. And this is Peter Duesberg work. It's flat out science. So I don't want you to know that. What I want you to know is that picture has written on the back of it in my handwriting, and I have the original picture in my teaching in my office at Godspeak Church in Thousand Oaks, where my pastor Rob McCoy basically took a lot of hits and continues to save for humanity the truth about what our government did in this plague of corruption. So this book published November 16th of 2014. Now the back of that picture says capital I, capital M, capital I, P. And that's the Integrative Neuroimmune Research Program Intramural Research Award. And that grant, and we'll pull up the document in a minute as you go out of this one, and after I tell you that they go back to that, because and then we'll go to INIP. That, so it says the role of chronic inflammatory and immune stimulation by active herpes virus infection. That's one? It. Yes, correct. So it says the role of chronic inflammatory and immune stimulation by active herpes virus infection in the development of immune dysfunction. Okay, DYS means there's a balance, mean you can go back to balance, homeostasis, dysfunction, dysmorphia, things like that, shapes, the dis-ease, DIS, is dis-ease. That's an FDA term, but dysregulation means you can restore the balance in your immune system. It's a balance. It's about the balance of your immune response to the response to the most dangerous poison affecting your immune system at a snapshot in time, in which part of the immune system. So in fact, this says for the development of immune dysfunction, it's not functioning properly. AIDS was originally called acquired immune dysfunction, DYS, and it actually was called gay-related immune deficiency, another acronym called GRID. Well, gay-related immune deficiency was never AIDS, and HIV was never LAV. And I'm speaking in acronyms so that your audience will hear me and stop speaking in babble. We're in Babylon. Stop babbling. Use your words and know what they mean. And that's why I thought we could go to this discussion on multiple sclerosis. Notice this title does not say multiple sclerosis. It says mantle cell lymphoma and chronic fatigue syndrome, which you might as well call Lyme disease equals Lyme disease, essentially the same, essentially long COVID, essentially myalgic encephalomyelitis, which is the scientific term, which means myalgic inflammation of the brain and the spinal cord. Well, with Lyme disease, it's not the brain and the spinal cord, which is multiple sclerosis and CIDP. With Lyme disease, it's brain. So it's neuroinflammation, not the spinal cord involved. No problem. But so who are the authors of this grant? Well, they're intramural. And in order to do this, what the NIH does, and it did in 2005, is it sent out a call to every institute and said, is any investigator that works for the taxpayer Intramural, not extramural, not universities. You don't write grants for this because you get paid a salary for the research. The taxpayers pay to turn the light on. The taxpayers pay for everything. So here is Francis W. Rossetti. These are both doctors, PhDs, not MDs, not practitioners. And he's the head of white blood cell leukocyte biology at the Cancer and Inflammation Program of the Center for Cancer Research at the National Cancer Institute, which is located in Frederick, Maryland. Who was the other investigator? It was Dennis Taub, and he's now the head of the Clinical Immunology Center section of the National Institute of Aging. So the two people who won this award, which was millions of dollars, and which was the initial funding for the first ever neuroimmune research institute. It was called the Whittemore Peterson Institute in Reno, Nevada, and we'll go back to there. But first, and it was co-founded by me and paid for by this grant and the National Cancer Institute. So we'll read further into this grant as we teach the rest of this. This was awarded in 2007. We wrote it in between 2005 and 6 and fixed it, and we'll scroll through it. But I want you to go back to those three pictures and now bring up the second slide, and I'm going to show you who did the work and what the results. Next slide. So now you know, here is Dennis Taub. There he is. So the INIP, as it was called on the picture, and that's in my hand. It's in my hand behind lock and key because Pastor Rob's under constant assault, as we all know. And he takes a big hit for being associated with me, folks. And I don't want you to contribute to that hit. And that's why I'm working so hard to educate you. Well, what you see here is we identified the inflammatory cytokine signature of XMRV associated disease. And that, of course, is COVID. COVID. So there was a signature of infection. And when did Dennis Taub do this work? 2000 and published this. 2004. We actually did it before I left the National Cancer Institute. So you see your astrocytes there. And I'll just read the first line, which I highlighted for you there. Syncytin. That would be the spike peptide. It's not a protein from HERV-W, the human endogenous retrovirus W. And we'll go back to that because God gave you from alpha to omega, W, X, Y, Z. We have protective pathways. God knows every nanometer of sunlight that's hitting my face. He knows every nanometer of every nanobot. What is nano? 10 to the minus 9. My microscope that I showed you in the last slide will not see that. I only see the clot. I only see a hematopoietic of red blood cells sticking together. Well, red blood cells don't stick together from syncytin, the middle spike protein in SARS-CoV-2. The first one is HIV glycoprotein. Glyco means sugar. So that's one part of the spike peptide. They're not proteins. They're little pieces of amino acids strung together that have been, the instruction is in a synthetic lipid nanoparticle. That's what Robert Malone, does it open up? Does it bind to the cell and release the payload into the cell? That we know. Okay. So syncytin is a vital envelope. Think spike. You know, you put the envelope, you put the messenger RNA in a bottle, you put the message in a bottle, and you ship it in the post office. What kind of envelope do you need? Do you need a padded envelope? Well, the brain needs a blood-brain barrier. The brain needs astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, and microglia, the stem cell from the bone marrow. So here's your picture in 2012. They're quiescent. See how the microglia have all those long extensions? Think of them like Velcro on a football player's glove, how they can stick their hand in the air and the football sticks to the glove, giving them enough time to catch it so it doesn't speed on through. Well, this is what it sticks to that. And this is your blood vessel. This is the axon in a neuron. And the microglia of the brain are see how they're all there? They're all making sure nothing gets to the neuron. But in multiple sclerosis, which is the right-hand side of this is a Nature paper from 2004. Okay, so syncytin is a vital, your God-given protection, spike protein encoded in the human genome. That means it's in our genes. And where is it? On our X chromosome. Every human had a mother. Just saying, watch God Speak. Micah Stevens' sermon yesterday will blow it away and teach you our language matters. In the human genome, new work in this issue indicates that it is activated in multiple sclerosis astrocytes. Not oligodendrocytes, not monoglia, the astrocytes that protect your brain. You got 3 different components, and I don't expect the lay people in your audience to understand this language other than to know that your doctor should know this language, and your government, the reviewers of our 2009 science paper, John Coffin, Jonathan Stoy from the UK, from Wellcome Trust. Who owns this journal? Who owns the Nature's journals? I'm telling you, Wellcome Trust. And the third one is Tony Komaroff. Who is Tony Komaroff? Oh, he wrote a little newspaper article about natural healing in the 80s, and he knew there was a non-HIV AIDS. And I'm saying this way in this program today so that we can understand. So let's continue moving forward. New work in this. Yes, dear.
Judy, I just wanted to ask you or make a comment here. What you're saying is, going to the blood, crossing the blood-brain barrier is really key to a lot, like neuro AIDS, which most people call Lyme disease. This is, it's beginning to get clearer for me now. This is why it could start presenting itself as anxiety and discomfort all the time, disorientation, inability later to walk, inability
short-term memory.
Yes, very short-term. And in the later stages, which is what I witnessed in my own family, is the person would try to speak and everything would come out backwards.
Correct.
That is terrifying. When that happens, it is terrifying. And it is scary for them too. Yeah.
And it's Tourette's. So we want to search, what does Tourette's mean? And what's the difference between Tourette's and OCD? And I can tell you what it is at a molecular level. That's why I love that you've got cellular and molecular biologists. And in our last class, you gave such a beautiful, and thank you, detailed introduction, because in fact, the world, the doctors, the practitioners, those who are charged to teach you, like you're supposed to counsel and teach people with so-called psychiatric diseases. Well, they're inflammation, and we knew it. And we knew from HIV AIDS that, Magic Johnson and athletes were of sound mind because that glycoprotein did not cross the blood-brain barrier until they injected it. Infection by injection and into the blood, into the muscles. You're looking at the muscles and the neurons. So you get an inflammatory response whenever any poison is consumed, whether it be through your eyes, your skin, your mouth, what you're eating. But the worst possible thing is injection.
Yeah.
It's and these things don't present themselves. I'm using the term, it's antigen presentation, which is how your immune response responds to shape in your natural environment and how food actually feeds you. So yes, we'll go to those questions in later classes. I do hope that I can get to the point where you and I can have these conversations and I can break it down like this, 3 slides at a time. So all you're supposed to know here is exactly what you're saying. Okay, so it's the astrocytes who are supposed to protect and the microglia who are supposed to communicate to the astrocytes. Well, who communicates? Oh, the exosomes. So your own white blood cells start producing exocytosis. Exosome means leave the body of the cell. It's a bleb that blebs off, and you send a fire truck to the fire, a messenger in the bottle. Well, if you drop a piece of paper in the ocean behind me, then it'll never get across the ocean and nobody will see the message in the body. So your God gave you protection. And your immune responses, your macrophages, are your red blood cell stem cell. Any parasite, meaning anything that robs oxygen from a red blood cell, whether it's 5G, whether it's the poison sprayed in the air, whether it's the glyphosate in the soil, which destroys the terrain, the food, our cows, our plants, our pigs, our vegetables. Our vegetables eat the soil. They take the nutrients. We eat the cows. We eat the eggs. We don't dip our eggs in chlorine bleach and put them in a grocery store. That's organic. That's not organic. But anyway, I want to stay on this topic. And that's why 3 slides is good for an hour. So what happens here on the right-hand side, Dennis Taub, a co-author from the National Institute of Aging in 2004, publishes this in your Nature journals. Oh, who controlled the message and censored me, jailed me, everything you know in plandemic.com, no due process, stole our patents. And when I say our, I mean the people of the United States of America. Okay, so this on the right-hand side of this figure, what you see is the cytokine signature of XMRV associated disease, COVID. Oh, well, they couldn't call it CVID, which is called common variable immune deficiency, where your B cells don't know what antibody to make because you injected directly into the blood and your B cells see shape in your innate immune response. And I know you don't understand what I'm saying here and I don't appreciate it, but this is what your doctors have never learned in 45 years since I've been teaching it. So your doctors never were taught this since 2004. So how did you know that SARS-CoV-2 was injected in every polio vaccine and flu shot for the elderly? Because this is the National Institute of Aging. Dennis Taub was my colleague in the Biological Response Fires program in Frederick, Maryland. He worked for the National Cancer Institute. He's got a child with autism, so he had a vested interest in this study, and he now knows they got it from the lab. Plandemic Indoctrination, David Martin, August 18th, 2020. All of these things have already been on our website. So your homework is to go to ARC Hub and start learning and start listening in these book clubs as we try to play things relevant to the news. We'll take on the bad guys, if you will, and we want beautiful practitioners like you, Kathryn, to step up and say, okay, I have the courage to forgive myself that I was lied to, and
Yeah.
I didn't see the obvious things, because this is hard to see. And for the people who didn't, don't believe in Christ, we're not called to save. We're called to show the love of Christ. And I admit I failed in my angry response to all of this, because right here on the right hand side, you see syncytin. You see syncytin and activated macrophages. So it's that piece of the 2004 SARS-CoV-2, 2004. Oh, they knew exactly what they were doing. Oh, so this comes out. They tell you it's in the public domain. Go find it. We, Fauci, didn't do anything wrong. Oh, sure you did, because you put the gatekeepers of science, which is your corrupt so-called peer review. Well, I will argue until my death, and give me liberty or give me death. I always say over my dead body, God has no peers. John Coffin, Jonathan Stoye, and Tony Komaroff, who knew this and were evil. That's Satan. That's not my peer review. And we don't genetically modify God. So if you have ever done in vitro fertilization or eaten any genetically modified food, if you still go in one of those stores that kicked you out and are irradiating and killing your food and then calling it organic, it is not, or spreading a peel on it. This is my sermon for, no, God has no peers. There is no peer review or consensus in science, because science is only God's natural law. So all I'm showing you here is that those three reviewers saw every bit of data of exactly what that cytokine signature was. And this is the right-hand side of the figure. So who are and what this is the data that those three reviewers pulled out, and the editors, why don't I say Paula Kabirstis, gotcha, going to federal jail, Paula, the editor of Science, the journal. And the reason I'm saying this way is because the edits and what they did to President Trump and the BBC by splicing together the paper. So, when you're psychotic like me and you think about this all the time at the level of Jesus, and you try not to have your Tourette's take over and your soul say, wait a minute. And then Jesus says, get behind me, Satan, talking to me, Peter, because I'm just going to take it into my own hands. And it didn't go well for me. I got jailed. It almost cost us everything. It did cost my husband his life on this day 4 years ago, because I couldn't get out of anger. And he was martyred, literally killed to cover up this. Cover up. That's what COVID-19 is. So every bit of this data was these data on the right-hand side. The journal is called In Vivo. And these were University of Nevada professors and my students, and every bit of these data were taken out of that 2000. It was submitted first in 2008, and the funded INIP funded the study, and I will read that abstract before we run out of time. So they took the editors of the journal and the reviewers, cut the paper apart, and then after 6 months, where they covered up all of these data and they lied and they paid off folks like Malone and McCullough, DARPA did the paying. And I have absolute proof, or I wouldn't say one word. I'm a scientist. No data, no laundry. I'm sorry.
Well, it's the truth. And that's what I appreciate about you, Dr. Judy, is I want to know the truth. When I seek truth, in the Bible. I want to know the historicity. I want to know the context. I want to know the literary forms. That's my thing. And I expect scientists to want to seek the truth and look at it objectively, not subjectively, like we have seen.
Well, and right here you see, it wasn't the peer review process, because they saw every bit of these data. And did they publish it as a full paper as we begged? No, they made it wait 2 years, literally until after I was fired for refusing to back down and lie about this. No, you lied. You pulled this data. It's not about the poison. It's about God's protection. And look at how exquisite it is. So the next slide. And I mean, they literally made this go to a non-public access, nothing journal, because you know what Jonathan Stoy's student that reviewed it, a student that reviewed the paper, said, send it to a specialty journal. So it could be buried, because those leaders of peer review, the Institute of Medicine, and that used to be called the National Academy of Sciences. Well, you can't be called Natural Academy of Scientists if you're not scientists and you're part of a cult called scientism. And that's what they were. So now they call themselves the Institute of Medicine, which is a more appropriate name. So here you are. Here is a 2018 paper. We also, this is a quote, that's why I put it in quotes, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyradiculoneuropathy, or CIDP. Well, why don't you just call it multiple sclerosis? Because this polyradiculoneuropathy is ridiculous in and of itself, but it is actually the accurate scientific term. So now we're trying to say introduce, it's brand new. No, they just changed the name to cover up the crime after they poison all of you to death and get you to run down a rabbit hole taking care of your family who you knew were poisoned when they got that 2004 polio shot that had SARS-CoV-2, not a coronavirus, and XMRV, cardiovascular disease, neuroimmune disease, not autoimmune disease. The body of Christ does not attack itself. There's no such thing as autoimmunity. And that's Pastor Rob's sermon of a couple of years ago, 2023, when he learned this graciously from me, like you. He was kind enough to sit and listen, and it costs him a lot to this day. So I do appreciate your bravery in doing this. So all you have to do is look at this. And they changed the virus to a herpes virus. Why? Because SARS-CoV-2 isn't a herpes virus, and herpes viruses don't go in the nucleus of the cell. They're tethered by methylation to the inside of the cytoplasm. So every new microRNA shot is not integrating into your God-given X chromosome. Never. It's integrating into the virus and creating a new variant. You literally created the ability to cause AIDS. And this is the work of Geert Vanden Bossche, who said this and showed you this. So what you see is all the science is right there. And they draw you the microglia. They literally just redrew the figure from 2004. And they were so arrogant, they used our herpes virus grant title. We got the money. We funded it honestly through the Neuroimmune Institute, the first ever. We cured the variant, the Whittemore's daughter absolutely cured with a patented botanical strategy that was also patented in 2010. And we could have done every variant, but the federal government, Harvey Whittemore, committed a little crime. He got Harry Reid illegally elected. It's a felony. It's in our book, Ending Plague. He was convicted in 2012, but he didn't serve any time. He went to, and they quickly made up something called PAC, which is unconstitutional, which is what he did in 2015. 4, 8, and 12. Harry Reid never would have been legally elected. He never would have done the program. Go read our book. Harry Reid wrote a letter about our discovery of to Frank Rossetti, a government scientist, which is illegal. Anyway, so here you are. Let's go back to the science. Chronic
Yes.
inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, not polyradiculoneuropathy, CIDP, a peripheral nervous system disease, and the commonest chronic immune mediated peripheral neuropathy that takes either a relapsing or progressive course. Think autism. Think multiple sclerosis. Is it like our friend Natalie Nicole? And we'll get her on to teach her journey, which is we're teaching journeys here. These are testimonies. We're not showing you the science. I want more and more Christians to stand up and know that we'll stand with them. And those are the medical deities, that are afraid to leave the system. We'll stand with you and we'll teach you and we'll forgive you. That was the name of Pastor Rob's sermon, Gratitude and Forgiveness. Gratitude on Super Bowl Sunday, and Brian Artis heard it. Okay, of 2024. So a peripheral nervous system disease and the commonest chronic immune mediated peripheral neuropathy that has a relapsing or a progressing recourse, which every vaccine injury does until you drive it completely chronic, until you can't stop the variant du jour and you've got ongoing AIDS and you're so sick, you've used the wrong treatment, you've taken out your God-given microbiome because you should never be using antibiotics. And the people who backed, and it's called ILADS, who backed that in vivo paper, and a criminal from Brussels named Kenny Demerlier. Again, this is the one world order, the world economic. This is not pharma. This is the corruption in HHS and Congress. And this is why we need Trump Kennedy. And this is why now we're so over the target that these commercials stem nonstop. And you go into those hospitals and you get these diagnoses that have no basis in truth. And you're told if it's, it's a timeshare. Oh no, you got to buy it this weekend or you're going to lose out on all these points. Wait. Your God has a solution.
Yes, he
and
does.
Your government knew it. Are those drugs on TV that they're recommending with CIDP.org? No, CIDP.org is a criminal organization that is stealing your data so they can make new drugs to poison you differentially, because it's been a few years. And we'll talk about the cancer in the bench to bedside proposal. That's why reading who Frank Rossetti was. So you get multifocal inflammation. What does that mean? There are holes poked in your brain, in your blood-brain barrier, and in your spinal cord that become sites of tissue injury. And the hematopoietic stem cell has to go to those first and tie a rope around it. Stop the bleeding, because as long as there is bleeding, the blood of Jesus, what separates the blood from the serum, the red blood cells, the plasma, the plasma, the molecular entities. Your viral response is your spleen and your lymphatics. You don't cut out the highway. Or you have to rebuild the vasculature around it. So that you get myelin sheets and the macrophages there, the microglial cell and the macrophages, which we'll teach and we have taught on AUTOIMMUNITY, and we'll just bring these back to you and dumb them down a little. I don't mean dumb them down, but I mean, we have to symptoms so you understand this. So all you're trying to do to understand today is, in fact, that your government had the cures in 2004 when they created SARS-CoV-2 for every variant. Our 2009 paper and two small companies got the patent, one called Epigenics Pharmaceuticals, to these chemokine signatures, because this was my work when I led the lab of antiviral drug mechanisms in the National Cancer Institute, the director. That's what you read last week. So this was my PhD thesis. Why does Magic Johnson not have AIDS? Well, we'll talk about the difference in the cytokine signatures in the variants, and we really can do everything and characterize it in a drop of blood.
Okay. Judy, I have three terms that I think need to be clarified.
Okay.
For people to understand. One, we heard a lot about cytokine storms in the the pandemic, and I had already heard it from the doctor who actually was helping our daughter get better, and I just knew it was something inflammatory. Can you tell us what this actually means at the biological level?
It is the signature of disease. So pull that paper back up. It's the signature of the immune response. And we actually showed it in our Lax talk. It's our 2011 publication. So if you just scroll down a little bit, let me show you what the cytokine storm is and who is Frank Rossetti. He and I discovered it. Discovered it. Okay, so let's just go back to the abstract, because I'll show you.
Okay.
That's the first page. Okay, project abstract. So I just want to read it to you. In elderly humans, notable changes in several components of the immune response, natural killer cells, they're innate, dendritic cells, they're presenting, play a critical role in the innate immune response against infections and tumors, and providing links to the adaptive immune response. In younger patients with chronic fatigue syndrome, similar immune abnormalities, aberrations, including your function of your NK cells, they just won't gobble up the bad guy. The oligoclonal. Now that we all know what oligarchies are, it means several clone expansions of T cells instead of a very specific expansion, because they don't get the right cytokine signature at the level of TGF beta to tell the T cells which exact poison virus to go after. It only sees the general, not the, it doesn't see the specific. And your adaptive immune response is so again, the cytokine storm that's what Candace Pert discussed in her book Molecules of Mation. It's not a storm, it's your immune response storming an invader. We're storming the beaches of Normandy. It's our entire military, it's the Air Force, your skin, it's the sun, it's your eyes, it's your night vision glasses, it's your gastrointestinal tract, which have all these holes poking into it, and it's always inflamed. So this says that what we saw here is when you don't get the signature of that disease, not DYS, that disease causing entity, not a syndrome, inflammatory polyradiculoneuropathy. We know exactly what the poison is that is driving your own immune system, because it says, that's not me. That's not me. Our exosomes exit from our white blood cells, not red blood cells. Red blood cells do not have nuclei or DNA. A parasite is anything that robs oxygen. You're robbing oxygen when you listen to this crap on TV that says there's no such thing as a virus, and you believe these lies, and you sit there and you watch commercial after commercial of poison where they've taken what was specifically defined and we knew exactly how to cure it. Magic Johnson got injected with HIV, the same HIV that every single person that got a hepatitis B shot since 1991, because that's how HIV got into humans. It wasn't that virus. That was a natural isolate. Okay, so the cytokine storm is your immune response storming and giving every level of protection you need. That's why you get a fever. You know, acetaminophen, Tylenol destroys your liver. You know, I have to explain this to people because you are asking the wrong question. Joshua 5, are they for us or against us? And what's the answer? No. No, you're asking, are you for or against God? Listen to yesterday's sermon. You're asking the wrong question. And I will normally get upset, not with you, because you're the one that's courageous enough to learn. It's the McCulloughs and the Malones that are poisoning people with things like nattokinase that are neither natto or kinase, or who are cowards and have been paid by DARPA to turn this around and develop bioweapons du jour, which are synthetic lipid nanoparticles. Robert Malone only listed once that he had nothing to do with mRNA. The little m is God. The messenger RNA comes from each individual sovereign liberty given by God according to your environment. Sovereign liberty is not freedom. So if you give away your sovereignty and you refuse to learn this, you know, what I wanted you to see today is, so we use that unique cohort of patients, and we have several cohorts, and we want your audience to say, hey, I got a Lyme design, because we're going to take every one of them and we're going to heal you and do this on you with this technology that we have patented, and your government is going to pay for it. We are going to get this through to Maha and General Flynn, and we are going to hold Science the Journal, Nature the Journal, these editors, just the way the BBC. It's not the corrupt scientists coughing, Coffin, Stoy, and Komarov. They're the satanic, but the lies were to the scientists and the MDs like McCullough and Malone, and that's why the question becomes, what did you know and when did you know it? When you humble yourself and you say, look, we made a mistake, and that's easy to do. And we want to learn, and that's why I appreciate you. So the rest of the science in here, what we used was a DNA microarray blast based platform for viral identification. And then the next one is we'll show you the cytokine signature of the disease causing entity at various stages of the disease. So we'll answer those questions. But what today's class was intended was, hey, this isn't a plague of corruption. It's not pharma. It's we the people. It's the government. And we are a constitutional Christian republic, or a Christian constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. There's no such thing as consensus science, and mobs ruled long enough. It's about time that you, the people, got back your intellectual property, and we take down the Bayh-Dole Act. But the only people who can do that is you, when you call Trump Kennedy, when you come to these events and learn that it's not the science. You're asking the wrong question. Are you for or against God? Are you going to trust him in his word and what he said? That's my preaching for the day. I'll take on the next couple of questions unless the answer is still no.
Okay. And you can tell me where to change, which slides you need. The next one was you talk about methylation a lot. And I'm not sure if everybody understands what that is, because I also remember being told that my daughter was not methylating correctly. So I even looked it up, and I saw how something was turned on and turned off, and the timing was off. So would you like to elaborate on that one?
Well, sure. A methyl group is CH3, right?
Okay.
CH4 is methane, the toxic gas from cow farts. Anyway, so it's by definition, it's organic. A methyl group, there are two sources, and it's the on-off switch for DNA methyltransferase, for your body to send the right fire truck to the fire. The answer to this question, by the way, is no. It's the same thing. You want to know what something is, go back and do your homework, because we've been saying this for 45 years, and all you need to do your homework is listen to 3 books. And start with Plague of Corruption. And I'd even start with Ending Plague, or watch one movie series, hear me talk, and look at the hundreds of thousands of hours of me teaching, the last class on AUTOIMMUNITY that we're in the process of doing also weighs in there. It's the environment. These aren't genetic disease. God did not make oncogenes. God did not make cancer-causing genes. God made genes to protect you from every poison, from every nanobot, 10 to the -9, seen by an electron microscope. Oh, you can't see it. The wind blows and you can't see it. You're chasing the wind. I give a plug to Pastor Lamar or Jackson. I forgot his name, from Pastor Jackson Latham from Ohio Amy's last event in Texas. The book is called Chasing the Wind. Get it, and you'll start forgiving yourselves a little bit better. See, I'm going to teach you how to learn, and that's what's important about this class. So the answer is no. DNA methylation is the heart of my PhD thesis. There were 2 components: the hematopoietic stem cell and TGF-beta, Frank Rossetti, the methylation, epigenetics. It's our environment. Our major form of methyl groups come from methionine. It's in the soil. Roundup is not an herbicide. It's not a weed killer. It's a soil killer. So our cows get no nutrients. Our pigs get no nutrients. We don't eat weeds. We don't eat weeds. Cows do. The nutrients from methionine are in our plants. We don't make GMO food, I said earlier. The source that human beings get comes from one place: dimethylglycine. That's grass. 2 methyl groups, CH3, on your smallest amino acid, glycine. And if you see on my website, the last talk that I gave, and I'll post it. That's therealdrjudy.com. But we'll have all of these things are on our Hub, because that's all I do is teach. But the people I'm supposed to be teaching are not the patients. They're the practitioners. I teach the MDs, DOs, chiropractors, and in fact, that is the problem with the United States of America. Here we may well lose our liberty forever and be stuck in communism. Why? Because the people on the gravy train, the medical deities, they refuse to give it all for Jesus. You don't get it both ways. You don't profess with your tongue, or you'll be stumbling. And again, watch Pastor Micah's sermon yesterday, 1 Peter 2:3.
Dr. Judy, you're right. I wish that I know that some doctors do attend the book club, and that's really good, and PTs and others. But I feel what I learned in my journey in our family is you have to advocate for yourself. You can't expect your doctor, because they feel like they are deities, and they think they are above everybody.
And in fact, that's why we do the book club. It's a club. We want you all there. And that's why I stop and I show you things like this. That's why we went back to a Zoom format and just not listen, because a lot of us are more visual learners. And I'll stop the book, but I don't only play our books. I play other books so that you can see, and so you'll be really educated. It's a club. But if folks can't read, because you can't when your brain's on fire, then all you have to do is lay down and listen. and listen to the books. And I'm trying really hard not to scream. And our Cub is fabulous about this. I'm doing a lot better because I get so frustrated because I want to do these classes as well. And I just want you, the people, to take them to your doctors or say, have you heard this? It's censorship is our problem. It's editors cutting up scripts. It's editors of the BBC deciding they get to tell you what you have liberty to read, that they have to cut up the Bible so that you can only read what they tell you. And in fact, that's where Pastor Rob McCoy's sermon was called, where he talked about there's no such thing as an autoimmune disease. And he said the body of Christ doesn't attack itself. And what he was talking about is how the church went after his friend Eric Metaxas a year or so ago when he wrote a book called A Letter to the American Church.
Yeah.
So it's no one group of deities. It's that we think somehow the ordinary man doesn't have a direct relinking, a direct relationship, however he's teacher. He said, call me Lord, don't call me teacher. So at the heart of it all, we have to know the word. We can't speak in acronyms. We are going to drill down to DNA methylation, but how simple it is that the solutions are already there. And great products exist, and we'll show you the whys as we've shown you in the past, and that's what we'll do in next classes. But until you know this and know that your message is to show it in truth and love to your doctor, insist on trying a different way. We know they will.
So, Doctor, we're so blessed to have you here, just for all the lay people out there. So what else do you want us to know? I did want to get to some questions. We have a couple questions here from the people, but I want you to finish. I mean, just kind of like, I know we're getting a synopsis, and that's okay, because that's probably,
well, it's really not a synopsis.
Okay.
It's really not. And that's why I appreciate that question, because what it is multiple sclerosis is CIDP. Lyme disease is AIDS, and when you categorize, there's no such thing as turbo cancer. I don't want to hear stage 4 anything. I want to know what the signature of the tumor, where the tumor sites. It used to be done in the National Cancer Institute, T2, N1, M3. One nodal site, one lymph node. Okay, my immune system's going there. That's clogging up. How do I open up that healing pathway? What nutrients do I put a red light on it? So you see, when we teach what foods do I stop eating, where am I going to look for the poison? Am I looking for a smart meter? Am I looking for a herpes virus or a coronavirus? Am I looking for a few viruses? It's not that the viruses don't exist. It's that how we find them is our God-given immune response. And we ingest a credit card of plastic in our liver, and then Tylenol, which is not a natural product and never was FDA approved. And aspirin is salicylic acid from willow bark. And we will not have willow bark that makes willow. We will not ever be able to make aspirin. And acetaminophen is the other name for it. So you see, it's almost the mixing of scientific names. And so where I want to direct your students is to show you how I gave these talks at Healing for the Ages last year. And so the slides that I'm using and answering exactly those questions, and that's where Brian Artis, Ed Group, Henry Ely, and Jana Schmidt. I'm going to teach bees tonight at down here in Ventura to Blue Ridge Honey, to teach people natural immunity. And that's where these shows can teach on a level where they've done a great job at our Cub in the 2 or 3 years that I failed to communicate because the audience was wrong, and trying to find ways to get brave people like Brian Artis and Ed Group, not only to redo the products according to the latest poisons. So since our technology is better, less can be more. We can do more with less. We can make them cheaper. Yes, it's been 15 years since our patents, if the FDA had done their job, would be approved. So all I'm trying to show you is, in fact, that those classes for those questions, I'll answer them quickly here in the next, as long as you have, in the next half hour or so, because I want to point you in the direction to find the answer. That's what a good teacher does. See, when you do an open book, test, you got to know the book. You got to know the book, or you'll run out of time. So that we're running out of time. You got to know the book. I'm speaking in terms I intend to.
I totally get it. I get it. You have to know where to find the answers. If you don't know the book, you're not going to be able to find them. This is so true. So yes, we're all very anxious, because you tell us we'll learn how we can get better. We don't want to have to take a ton of antibiotics the way my daughter did, but she has tolerated it. It's gone. It's done. But we want the healthy version of everything.
And that's what we're doing.
Yes. And I love that. So
it's already done. It's already done. And our books are testimonies. Our books are, you literally might call them, testimonies and courage, because it's across the way how heroes like Luc Montagnier, Suzanne Humphreys, Stephanie Seneff, and we play her book on the toxic legacy of glyphosate, and that teaches the doctors, that brave, beautiful, fabulous scientists. The best thing, I love Peter McCullough, because he did humble himself long enough to say, I don't understand this. And he teamed up with Stephanie Seneff, and the two together are a fabulous pair. So we want to pair wines and foods and teaming, and see, the books are testimonies, so they'll resonate with you differently. Meaning, these books that are in our book club, everybody can understand them, and we talk about them for 2 hours on Wednesday night. You can listen. If you don't have 2 hours, you can listen to it after the fact, go in and watch the series and hear what we said and watch the diagrams. But a lot of people come to Godspeak, and we do this live on Wednesday afternoons there, because we want the local communities, and then we want your communities like you, Kathryn, to lead a book club. And so instead of one at a time, you'll Zoom in, and then you can have people in your living room, and it can be your show living room for your classes. Bring your living room in, and we'll do shout outs to you, and we'll take your questions one night or the. It can be a blast if we have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I do. Okay, so let's get to some questions.
Okay.
I also, for anyone who has to leave, I do want to say, Dr. Judy and I are going to be doing several shows. We might even go to two times a month, right, Dr. Judy?
Right.
We'll discuss that. And we're going to cover a lot of things. And so in that process, whatever is going on in your family, or you want to know about, or if you happen to be a doctor out there or a physician. I know today I invited one of the medical staff from the clinic where my daughter went for several years with Dr. J. Anyhow, so I hope she's listening, or will after work. And, so that she can get up to speed on what's happening and what's going on with some,
and your doctor will be able to understand that complete INIP and every reference in it. So we can walk through those references that ask the questions, and we'd love it. We can even bring that doctor in on the show if she is brave enough. And our club does that quite successfully. And we did that with vision specialist Dr. Nan in a class last week for people that are having trouble with eyesight and tinnitus. We're doing these things with marrying products and showing you what to do and what order to do them in. So we do that through your practitioners. So take a look at that as well.
That's really exciting. Okay, so let's see. We have this one. I am unvaxxed, but recently suffered a serious large pericardial effusion. No cause found except inflammation. Could shedding be the cause? Can you read that?
Yes, I can. So I want to say shedding of what? So you're unvaxxed when? You never got a vaccine back to your grandmother? No, none of your mothers. You only want to know your grandmothers. Not your mother nor your grandfather on either side of your family ever got if this is a woman, it's two X's. If you're a man, you got your, X from mom. So at any rate, and you're at a great disadvantage. So how about we ask, what is the solution? Well, to know that, all I have to know is what I just told you, because you're going to get a signature of which virus was shed. And so if it was the shedding from a cow or glyphosate or your food that you ate or your GMO carrot, which is loaded with glyphosate, which causes you to re-express back to your grandmother all of those viruses. So you see, our language isn't clear here, and this is what we're going to clarify. Now, I will say a solution is Cardio Miracle. It is a recipe of powdered food that cleaned up all that problem and then did the functional paper I, the scientist, requested. And we can show that to you. So you start with Cardio Miracle, but you also need a product called ProImmune, because that's from radiation poisoning. So radiation poisoning is what they're shooting through the skies every day. Is every smart meter, is there a smart meter near your home? Did one of those towers go up? Look at your environment, look at the spraying. Are you seeing a lot of chemtrails? Because yes, that's sprouting it. Did you ever use a hand sanitizer, and do you use them? No, you don't, is the simple answer. Soap, borax, your water is deadly, poisoned with all of these non-alkaline synthetic electrolytes. So, and again, reverse osmosis water is pH 5. That's why I want to direct you to Healing for the Ages, and they have a teaching institute, and those slides and those presentations that I gave last year have links to our website. So we will make that easy for you and put those in the show notes, so that as you go back, then you can see the presentation at the time, and you can see how we've used that information to help by turning that question backwards and asking the right question, or at least the one I think you mean. If you don't mean that, then ask me again.
Okay. All right. So the next one, what symptoms do retroviruses cause, and can they cause bloating and other gut issues?
Again, no. Number one, you're asking the wrong question, because if you listen to our first book, Plague, which I showed you the cover of, it shows you and tells you in no uncertain terms, with thousands of references, exactly what symptoms. Why don't you just say Lyme disease? Why don't you just say CIDP? That's multiple sclerosis. Yeah, gut issues. Oh, if the spike protein is in an enterovirus in MMR, what did Andy Wakefield? Do you know that work? No. So yes, that's what, but what about, how do you distinguish that from Tylenol, which destroys your gut? How do you distinguish that from glyphosate, Stephanie Seneff, the toxic legacy of glyphosate, which destroys your gut and destroys your soil and destroys your cow's gut and destroys your chicken's gut and destroys your pig's gut? And how many guts do I have to destroy here? Which gut? Are you eating it? Are you injecting it? Not one shot was ever tested or cleaned of the monkey, mouse, cow, or aborted fetal retroviruses. Dozens of them. Pigs. They told you right there. Go to the the website of the CDC and simply look up vaccine excipient list from 2013, or you'll see that in our discussion under Dr. Judy's book club, which we took 3 of the slides from 50 of them. And that's where we're going to go through all the books and we're going to teach you each week.
Okay.
But the information's already there if they want to jump on that question.
I think that's a good. What time is the book club, Dr. Judy?
4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern.
Okay.
And it's 2 hours. And I might go ahead and replay what I played last week, or what I failed to be able to play the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. We were actually on a class, but at any rate, I just stopped the class with Pastor Caspar McLeod and went and thought it irreverent to play Frank Rossetti's Ending Plague is the name of the book. It's the chapter called The Failed Public Health Response to HIV/AIDS. So I want, and I'll ask your audience, I might continue to play my half of Ending Plague, which talks about healing with interferons and that methylation question. So since you got those questions today, then I'll tell you and ARCUB that I'm going to continue with, we did chapter 1 and 2 of my half of Ending Plague, which started with the PowerPoint that the truth about cancer, October 12th, 2019, called Persecution and Cover Up. And it showed that was the day Bobby Kennedy and basically knew it was a plague of corruption and put that beautiful forward into our book, Plague of Corruption. So I will play that this week for your audience so that those questions get answered with visuals, and I'll put the slides in.
Okay, that would be awesome. Thank you for helping us better understand. This is stuff that we really need to process, and probably go back and listen to this video again and join Dr. Judy's book club on Wednesday nights. Dr. Judy, do you happen to know when we go to your website and we click on the book club and it takes us to ARCUB, what happens after that? Because I know when I went on, I couldn't figure out, because there are different, I guess I think there's 3 different options. Is it under learning? Or
yes, that's right now, since we're changing over our website completely, it's a bit confusing. So what ARCUB is doing now is all you have to, they're sending everybody on a mailing list. So all you have to do is, that's like I say, we can get you the Zoom link so you don't have to register. And the only reason to register is so that ARCUB can send you the Zoom link. So that's not public. It was a problem on X because we kept getting attacked and we didn't have an opportunity to have a conversation. So she will send you the Zoom link if you register. If not, simply check back with you, Kathryn, and you'll have that and you can advertise it on your resource. And that's how we share the knowledge.
Okay, definitely. Well, Dr. Judy, gosh, you've spent a lot of time with us today, and I thank you, and I'm very excited about what the new year is going to bring. And the shows, because we need we need this break, reprieve, so I can come up with some different questions and just kind of, you can tell me how to lay things out, and those are the things we're going to hit on. We're even going to talk about, Dr. Judy had a great idea, and we're going to talk about some of these crazy big pharma commercials and how they get into our psyche, and really what's going on with the chemical processes of that supposed medication. So.
Well, and I'll show you why it's so dangerous and why you can use one of these natural alternatives. Really, truly, I hate to say natural, but God is nature, and a botanical that is simply powdered food, which is freeze drying, which many people already powder their food because it's a little bit better than canning their food. So you see, we develop new farming technologies and we'll bring in other people. So it really is an awful lot of fun to break down a commercial, and we'll get the clips of it and we'll show you how we teach it. We can do this in our book club too. And at some point while we're listening, I can show you some of those commercials, because it's truly going to be an entertaining a club. Your friends are going to want to say, hey, have you been to that? Because then you start really understanding, and you're empowered. And that's what education is intended for, empowering, so you don't need them, so that that's liberty. That's true sovereignty, so you can truly make an informed decision.
Yeah. And this is the same exact pattern that God talks to us about in scripture. In Deuteronomy 6, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, and you should tell it to your children. So we're supposed to teach, we're supposed to get to know God every single day, a little bit more, a little bit more. And that way we have this beautiful relationship that no one else can come in between. And that's what Dr. Judy is doing here. She's informing you this knowledge so that you can become more of an advocate for yourself and know what you're talking about, and know when somebody's pulling the wool over your eyes and the medical system is lying to you. What stages, and you can teach your doctors. Hopefully you'll make good relationships with certain individuals who are honest. So I guess that's it for today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon out there. It looks beautiful. As you can see here, it's nighttime. It's dark outside.
Is it really? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm headed over to Wendy Mitchell's Blue Ridge Honey, and I'm going to talk about pollination. We'll send you there, because this is Jana Schmidt in Healing for the Ages. She's bees and understanding why we put bee pollen in her Cardio Miracle. You never have to take A, D, K, and E. Just make sure we don't destroy our bees. So stay tuned, and we'll do it next time. It's fun.
Thank you. Okay. Bye, Dr. Judy.
Bye. Appreciate you, Kathryn.